ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ Today we will talk about the fatal attraction, the attraction that is dangerous and the attraction that kills. Man is always looking for rust, pleasure and enjoyment. As per Gurbani, there are two types of rust man experiences. One is the rust from within and the other the rust from outside, which is the rust of the senses. Guru says, man, if you want to seek rust, seek the rust from within, as it is the biggest rust that you will ever experience. Guru Ramdas ji says in Gurbani, Kaya Nagar mein Ram Ras Uttam. Kaya Nagar mein Ram Ras Uttam, which means the biggest ever rust that you will experience is inside you, the rust of Nam. But man prefers to seek rust from outside, the rust of Maya, which is temporary and which is fatal. The rust from outside depends on circumstances, while the rust from within is independent of circumstances. The rust from outside goes up and down and is momentary, while the rust from inside is permanent and keeps increasing all the time. Now let's move forward. All the senses in our body have accepted the mind to be the one in charge. Bhai Gurudas ji tells us, Dehi andar ek man indri parvana. Dehi andar ek man indri parvana, which means in the body, it is the mind whose orders are obeyed by all senses. The mind is in total control of the whole body and the senses. The mind sits behind all our indriya and our senses and controls them. When we relate to rust or pleasure that the body experiences, sometimes we think it's the senses that are enjoying the rust. But do you know what? This is an illusion. The eye sees, but the mind enjoys. The tongue tastes, but the mind enjoys. The ears hear, but the mind enjoys. Let's move forward. The mind has become so ignorant that it is not able to tell between good and bad. Bhakt Ravidas ji says, Madho avidya hit keen. Madho avidya hit keen, which means he says man is in love with ignorance. And he says further, Babek deep malin. Bhagavat ji says, just like a lamp becomes dim caused by the soot on the glass, the mind has become dim because of the soot of ignorance. The mind has lost its clarity to tell between good and bad. Now, obeying the mind, the senses chase the false rust, the false pleasure, the fatal rust, and the fatal pleasure. Bhakt Ravidas ji says, be careful. This is a fatal attraction. He uses examples of animals to tell us the rust of senses, what they do. Bhagat ji calls this a weakness. He uses an example of 5 animals, a deer, a fish, a bumblebee, a moth and an elephant to help to elaborate on how these weaknesses kill them. Mrig, meen, pring, patang, kunchar, ek dokh vinas. Mrig, meen, pring, patang, kunchar, ek dokh vinas. He says all these animals only have one weakness each. Only one weakness. And he says, and look at what happens to them. The first example he uses is a deer. When a hunter goes out deer hunting, he takes a small clay pot and fixes a piece of leather on the mouth of the pot and makes an insertion in the leather. He then takes a feather and inserts half of it in the hole and makes slow in and out movements, scratching the leather, creating a sound or naad, as we call it in Punjabi. The ears are known to be the biggest weakness of a deer. The deer hears the sound and is immediately attracted towards it, and it is drawn towards the sound. It obliviously goes and stands in front of the hunter as if it is in trance. The hunter then shoots the deer. A weakness of the ear, just one weakness, seeking pleasure from the sound kills the deer. Bhagavad uses a fish as the next example. He says the fish is known for his weakness of being attracted to taste, the weakness of the tongue. When someone goes fishing, he uses a bait to catch the fish. The fish is willing to turn its back towards the water, which is the life support for the fish, of the fish, for the little piece of meat in the bait. Bhagavad says the weakness of taste, the weakness of the tongue kills the fish. Just like that, man turns his back towards God, who is his life support for little. Man turns his back towards God, who is his life support for little pleasures of life. Bhagavad uses an example of a bumblebee next. He says the bumblebee is known for its weakness of being attracted to smell, the weakness of the nose. It flies towards the smell coming from the lotus flower, sits on the lotus flower and loses itself to the smell. As night falls, the flower closes, the bumblebee dies. Bhagavad says the weakness for smell, the weakness of the nose kills the bumblebee. Bhagavad then uses a moth as an example. When a moth sees a flame, it is attracted to it. The weakness of the sight of the flame, the weakness of the eyes drives the moth towards the flame. The moth just flies into the flame and kills itself. Bhagavad says the moth dies because of the weakness of the eye. The last example Bhagavad uses is an example of an elephant. An elephant is known for his sexual appetite. The hunter makes a big hole in the ground, covers it with grass and bushes, and places an effigy of a female elephant on the covered hole. The elephant, overtaken by its desires, chases towards the effigy of the female elephant and falls into the hole and is captured by the hunter. Bhagavad says, all these animals only had one weakness. Only one weakness. And look at what happened to them. Bhagavad says, oh man, you have five. Panch dog asad jamai tanki ketak as. He says, oh man, they had one. You have all five weaknesses within you, which are out of your control. What hope do you have? Imagine what is happening to us daily. We fall in this trap daily, but we are so ignorant that we can't tell. Let me repeat the above Bhakti of Bhagavad Ji. Madho, Abhidya Hitakeen Vivek Deep Malin. We are so in love with ignorance, and our ability to see clearly has been covered by the suit of ignorance. Pyari Sat Sangatji. Bhagavad Ji says the attraction to the rus of the senses can be fatal. Guru Amardas Ji tells us in Ananda Sahib, Pyas na jaye hort kitte jichar haras palle na paye. That you will not be able to run away from this thirst, from the rust of senses until you attain the taste of Naam. And he says, once you have attained the taste of Naam, kahe Nanak, hur anaras sab visrai, jahar vasai manai. That all the other pleasures and rusts are all forgotten when the Naam and Naam ras dwells in the mind. To summarize and conclude, there are two types of ras man experiences. One is the ras of Naam, and the other is the ras from outside, which is the ras of the senses. The ras from outside is temporary and fatal. It will only bring grief. The ras from inside is the biggest ras. It is permanent and will bring you permanent bliss and joy. So let's connect to the ras from inside and escape the grief of the false ras. To connect to the ras within, we need Guru, we need Bani, we need Naam. So let's connect to the Guru to help us connect to Naam ras, which is within us. Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।